Hi, and welcome back. In this episode, we're going to talk about recruiting for salespeople. And recruiting for salespeople is very challenging. And it's challenging in three ways, two of which are reasonably obvious, but the third is not. So let's start with the easy stuff. The first reason recruiting for salespeople is challenging is that sales skills are very subjective. There's no certification for sales. It's not degree specific as some disciplines are, like engineering or accounting. Salespeople have a lot of different educational experiences, and what they provide you as an employee is a very subjective skill, the ability to communicate. So judging salespeople in the interview process can be challenging because what you're judging is ambiguous. You know, one person may like a certain personality and another person may not. And one person may describe a certain personality in a specific way, like gregarious, where another person may say that same personality is fast talking. You know, one is positive, one is negative. So when you're interviewing salespeople, the one thing you have to do with your team of interviewers is to have a common set of semantics, common words to describe things, and you have to have a baseline. In other words, John Smith is one of your more successful salespeople. So you want to judge people's skills and their subjective qualities based upon John Smith. This person is more talkative or less talkative than John Smith, more articulate, more polished or less polished. That's the best way to describe the subjective nature of sales skills. Now, the second challenge with interviewing salespeople is obvious. Salespeople are good communicators. They know the game, they know how to talk, they know how to present themselves, and they're good at what they do. And if they are good at what they do, they'll interview well. You know, any salesperson that doesn't interview well is probably not going to be in sales for very long to begin with. So they will all present a positive persona within the interviewing process. You know, to judge that against your average candidate for other professional jobs is sometimes misleading. You know, you have to evaluate salespeople in terms of their presentation in the interviews on a higher bar. Average is not good enough. They all have to be above average. Now, let's get to the third challenge in interviewing salespeople, the one that's less obvious. Salespeople are trained to close. They are trained to overcome objections. And to them, the interviewing process is very similar to the sales process. It is a series of objections that they want to overcome. The first objection is, I want to get an interview. Okay, I'm going to work hard to get the interview. Second, I want to get the second interview. I'm going to work hard to get the second interview. Third, I want to get the offer. I got to overcome that objection. My goal is to get the offer. And they're trained to do that, and that's what makes them good at what they do. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's one thing lacking in that with many salespeople. They are so trained to overcome objections that sometimes they don't stop and think about whether they really want the job. You know, their goal is to get the offer because that means they've overcome all the objections. Once they get the offer, they start thinking about, well, do I really want this job or not? You know, what does that mean to you, the potential employer? It means you waste a lot of time. You know, it means a lot of candidates back out at the end. It means a lot of candidates that you think are interested because they've gone through the whole process are really just going through the process because they are trained to be persistent, dogged, and energetic, and to do what? To overcome objections. That's the win. You know, they getting an offer is like getting a sale for them emotionally. You know, so the only way to overcome this from a metrics standpoint is you have to have a lot more candidates because you're going to lose some. You know, in a traditional employment situation, we usually try and find 2 to 3 finalists so that if one backs out, our client has a backup candidate that they can turn to. In sales, you need like 4 or 5. Because I can guarantee you, 2 or 3 of them at some point towards the end of the process will realize that this is not the job for them and will back out at the last minute. Sales projects are very labor intensive. For most of our professional employee searches, we're going to talk to 100 people to get down to those 2 to 3 finalists for our clients. For sales searches, we talk to 200 to 300, which means that you can expect to put a lot of time into your sales projects, and there is literally no way to shortcut it. So there's some quick tips for you if you're interviewing salespeople. If you want to know more or you think you can help, certainly contact us at Right Recruiting in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania. Thanks.